Blends are another really fun thing to do in Illustrator, and so I'll take you through a few things you can do. Blends are mainly designed to give you the capability of doing kind of like morph images. So I'll get myself a polygon here, and I'll put a stroke on it, but I'm going to change the color. Make the stroke a little bigger. Okay. Then I'll morph this image into a star. Okay, so I'll draw a star down here. And I'll make it a six-pointed star, so it's got the same kind of number of facets as this. All right, let's change the color. Let's change the colors on it. I'll make it have a yellow stroke and a red fill. Let's make it something else, orange. Okay. How you get this to work, there's really two ways to get into blends. You have an object that you want to morph into another object. Now it'll morph the shape, it'll morph the colors for strokes and for fills. And there's really two ways to do it. There is a blend tool in your toolbox. And I'll do this first one with the blend tool. I'll take this anchor point and click, and then I'm going to click on a similar anchor point as far as position right here. And what it'll do is it'll blend between those two shapes. And in outline view you can see that really all it is just an effect. It's morphing this image into this. I know it's kind of hard to see here. The stroke actually helps in this case. Let's take the other way to do these. Go to Object, Blend, and Blend Options. Okay. Now instead of having so many colors as it goes from this shape to this shape, if I make it have fewer number of steps, let's make it really low, and I'll click my preview button here. You can see the steps now in between this green fill and this orange fill, the yellow stroke and the red stroke. And I'll go ahead and kind of look at this again in outline view. All it is just a shape with this line between them. The line in between is called a spine, and the spine can be manipulated. If you go to your pen tool, for instance, you can add a new path on the spine. Take your direct selection tool and bend the spine like this. Go back to preview, and you can see now that it's following that new spine. Continue with the pen tool. If I want to make it a curve, just use the Option key and drag the curve out like this, and now it's following a curved spine. And you can add as many anchor points as you want here, and your shape will just continue to follow the spine. Now you can, after you've made the blends, you can continue to do just about anything that you want to the objects. You can go back into the object, blend options, and you can have it, and you can give it more steps. I'll give it 30 steps, and now you can see all those options in there. You can select one shape on the end here, and I'll just take off the stroke, and you can see how it affects it that way. You can select the object on the other end, and you can change its color. Okay, you can put a stroke back on. Select, I'm using the white arrow here, so it'll select one shape without the other. Now it's got that stroke back on it. Okay, now you can, it's a grouped object, so when you use the black arrow it selects the whole thing. When you use the white arrow it'll select one end or the other. It still looks like this in outline view. Okay, and again, you can just do anything you want to this. If I use the pen tool and delete a point, and you can see now I've got a shape that's going from a polygon to this kind of arrow shape. I can add new points if I want to. Use the direct selection key to change the shape. You can see it all reacting to it there. Pen tool, make some corners into curves, use the option key. And then you can just do anything to it. Okay, direct selection key. You just have to be careful so that you select one object at a time. Now if you click on the fill, you can see this object is selected, this one's not. Then go back to the selection tool. You might not think this would be possible, but you can. You can spin. You can turn things. There's kind of a two-step process there. Select it first with the direct selection tool, then change to the selection tool, and you've got the functions that the selection tool does. Go back to the white arrow and you've got the functions that the direct selection tool does. You can delete parts of it. Now open paths don't work quite as well for this kind of morphing, but if you have an open path like you see I have right here, see how it's open on that end, you can close the path. If you remember how we did that, we used the join command, Command J. Oops, it's not going to let me. Let's see if it'll let me. Doesn't like it for some reason. Okay. Not really sure why that is. Let's see if I look at it this way. Seems like that should join, but it's not going to. Okay. Maybe we can do it with the pen tool. Let's see what the pen tool let me do here. Click and click. So that let me join it. Well, I was going to say it'll morph better when it's a closed path, but once again, Illustrator likes to prove me wrong. Yeah, it's flipping. It's kind of doing a flipping thing now. What I mean by that is it has to do with where you first apply the blend, and when it gets turned, say 180 or 90 degrees from that, it starts to kind of fill in unexpected ways. Now it's right there. It doesn't like that angle, and so you see it doing a kind of a flippy kind of a thing there. Now it'll usually come back around if you turn it a little bit more. It'll usually work out, but there are certain angles that it just doesn't really know how to interpret very well. Okay, and you can see how that works. Again, changing colors is no problem. I'm changing just one end. I'm just changing this object. Another thing that you can do is you can see how this one is the front of the design and this one is in the back. If you go to Object and Blend, you can reverse front to back. Okay, so now this is out front and this is behind. Okay, so you can do that. You can rescale things. Let me see if I can get that to select by itself. The white arrow should select by itself, then go to the selection tool and you can make things smaller. And you can see, again, it's having a little trouble interpreting that angle. That combination of starting with the direct selection tool and then switching to the selection tool allows you to do things that you might not expect that you could do. I know it surprised me the first time that I could initially choose it with this direct selection tool and then scale and do other things to it that the selection tool does. And you can see it there. You can change the fill to a gradient and get a nice looking gradient going in there. You can make that a radial gradient. So now it's a radial gradient. You can change the gradient center just like we can do with any other kind of a gradient. You can rotate the gradient. Okay, and you can even put a gradient in the other end of it if you want to. I'll do a black and white gradient. Wow, that is pretty neat looking. See how the middle of it turned out there? So it's going from an orange, yellow-orange gradient to a black-white gradient. And these are all the same stuff that you always do. You pull the gradient panel off, and you can change the gradient like this. And just everything that we've all looked at before. And so it's really and truly just anything you want to do with it. Now, there's that, and honestly, I don't know what that would be good for, except for certain kind of occasions where, I don't know, I kind of see a dragon's tail or something in here. I mean, you just have to kind of use your imagination and figure out ways to make these shapes apply the way you want them to. I'm trying to select that again. I thought maybe if I made it smaller, it might even look a little bit more like a dragon's tail. Yeah, not so much. Anyway, you can, if you keep in mind that it's just a spine in the middle, you can see the spine there, and you can manipulate the spine. You can break the spine. You can select portions of the spine and then delete it, and you're back to this kind of straight line thing that it defaults to. Okay, now I've got the shape is on top of the other shape. I can still do, if I do it right here, I think I can still pull that apart. Yeah, maybe not. I've done something to it now that I'm not terribly familiar with. Okay, let's see. There's a. Okay, so when you destroy the spine completely, it stacks on top. I just discovered that this second. Okay, I guess you can still select portions of it, but it's changing the size of it altogether. Okay, so it's not really acting like it usually does. Okay, so you can maneuver the spine. Evidently, you can crack the spine and take away points, but it does affect how the thing goes. There's just so much you can do, just so much. And I just this second discovered even more. All right, now once you've done something like this and you've got that really kind of interesting shape going there, you can also then expand it. If you go back to Object, there's an expand right here that works, or you can go into the Blend and there's an expand right here. What this does is it truly turns them all into separate pieces, where before it was a shape on a spine. Now it's all different shapes, and it looks the same, but it can be pulled apart. If I want this shape to come out of there, I can take it out, and I can put it on different parts of the page. Okay, so you could have something transitioning maybe all around the whole page. Okay, or you can take pieces out so that there's a little gap in the middle. I'm just deleting them now. Remember, with the white arrow, when you delete, you have to click twice. Okay. All right. So that's expand, and you can expand a blend at any point, and it turns it into individual paths, just like you see there. This is outline view. Okay. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Okay. I think maybe I'll stop here and start another one.